All right, welcome in everyone. Give everyone some time to join the room before we get started. Glad to have you here tonight. Feel free to drop in the chat where you're tuning in from and what year you're looking to start at Skidmore. And after a few minutes, we'll get started with our information session. A few more folks trickling in. Give it like another minute and we'll jump in. Come in, Leo. Glad we got that.
Yay, thank you.
Of course. And it looks like we've got, it seems like we've got a slowed down attendee list, so we should be good to go there. Yeah, so welcome in everyone. Um, this is just our virtual information session for Skidmore. Just to give you some background on this. So my name is Jordan. I'm one of the assistant directors here at Skidmore. Been with Skidmore for about 18 months, and grew up around the area of Saratoga, so I know a good bit. We're going to give kind of just a general overview. We do have the Q&A feature, so feel free to drop questions in there. We'll try to answer them as much as we can, whether typing an answer or answering them live here with our two great panelists. We likely won't be able to get to everyone's question, so feel free to shoot an email if we don't get to your question, but we'll do our best to cover just about everything. So it's enough of my introduction. I'll allow the panelists to introduce themselves. Aiden, I see you're already off mute, so if you want to start us off with intros.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Aiden. I am a rising senior here, and I'm from Maryland. I'm an environmental science major, and I'm also on the swim team. Aside from working in admissions, I work as the captain of peer academic coaching for the Environmental Science and Studies Department. It's like a drop-in tutoring service. I also have a radio show, and last fall I studied abroad in Ecuador.
Hi, I'm Leo. I'm an English major and gender studies minor. I just graduated, and outside of my work at admissions, I was a member of Skidmore Polo Club and Skidmore Anime Club, both of which I was on the executive board for.
All right. So just to kind of start things off, start talking with Saratoga. Saratoga is a wonderful town for us to be a part of. We're really centrally located, about 3 hours from New York City, 3 hours from Boston. If you head north, about 3 hours from Canada. So a lot of ways to get around. Um, excuse me, we're about 35, 40 minutes from Albany, which is where the state capital is. The train station is there, the airport's there, so a lot of people kind of travel to and from there. We do have a train station about 10 minutes away from campus that runs pretty frequently down to New York City, which is very convenient when your schedule lines up with that. We also have an on-campus bike system that students use that's free for students. You can get up to 30 minutes on an electric bike, up to 4 hours on a pedal bike, and that's per day. So it's very convenient to kind of pop around into downtown. And you may also see students riding the CDTA bus. We have a stop right on campus that runs regularly nights and weekends, but on demand, regardless, kind of throughout the rest of the week. So it's a very convenient way to get downtown. Downtown is only about a 15-minute walk from campus, so it's also a nice stroll when the weather is cooperating with such a request. But there's really a lot happening in downtown Saratoga and Saratoga at large. We have a ton of different restaurants, coffee shops, bookstores. There's parks and hiking trails, so a little bit of everything in Saratoga, and it's really nice to have a town close by with such a strong relationship and a strong connection to Skidmore. A lot of our alumni stay local, so it's nice to have that as well. But there's really a lot to love about Saratoga, and it's really something that really sets Skidmore apart from a lot of other liberal arts colleges. But do you both want to talk about some of your favorite parts of Saratoga?
Yeah, of course. So, um, definitely the restaurants. My when my parents are down, we always try different ones, but there are lots of events going on really throughout the year. So one of them that comes to mind is Chowderfest, which happens in February. And this past year, we had, I think, like 80,000 people come to town. So they shut down a big part of Broadway, the main street, and all of the restaurants offer their own version of a chowder. So some places, of course, do it typical, but like Ben and Jerry's will do fish food for theirs. And everybody's offering is like $2. So you just can kind of do a crawl and pop into the stores. It's really great because it's cold outside and you can eat some warm food and it's cool to people watch. And yeah, there's a lot going on. So it's really fun. Always something to do downtown.
Yeah, there's always a lot. One of my favorite events is Saratoga Comic Con, which is held in November and May. It's a really cool event. It's the largest Comic Con in upstate New York. As a member of Anime Club, you get subsidized tickets, and they a lot of the times pull surprisingly big name voice actors. So the voice actor of Naruto was there a couple years back, and it's a really cool event. I also love being at Bloomfield Farm, which is where the Polo Club operates out of. It's a really nice property, and I just love being with the horses.
Yeah, there really is always something happening kind of in Saratoga, which is really nice. There's also a lot of live music venues. So there's always some artists coming by any given weekend, which is really nice. I do mention, students get a lot of the benefits of a tourist city without having to deal with a lot of tourists, because a lot of the tourism does happen in those summer months, and then it kind of calms down as it moves into the academic year, and students can kind of fill the role of those tourists for the local businesses. So there's a real give and take with the businesses and the student population. It's really a synergistic relationship, which is great. We kind of moving more into Skidmore specifically, we are a smaller liberal arts college. We've got about 2,700 students. We've got an average class size of about 16, and we've got an 8-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So what that all boils down to is there's a lot of opportunity to get to know each other, get to know your classmates and your professors, and really build relationships that will last long after your time here. We have 40 or so majors, and those kind of run the gamut as far as interests go. Some of the more popular tend to be business, psychology, our biology department, um, environmental sciences, English, and theater. So a real mixed bag as far as the most popular majors. And I think that is a real testament to the way Skidmore approaches the educational journey. So all students that are admitted to Skidmore are admitted undeclared. So you kind of have the freedom to take classes that sound interesting to you, whether you're somebody who knows exactly what you want to get into or you're kind of still figuring it out. You have a lot of that flexibility in your schedule to kind of fill in those gaps. And I think it really starts in the first class that students take here. So the first class students take is a Scrivener seminar, and that is a first year seminar that is capped at 16 students. So you get average class size feeling. and you go through orientation with those students. So you have a lot of social touch points and you get a chance to kind of get to know people beyond just being classmates. And the classes themselves are really interdisciplinary, kind of like passion projects for those professors. They're always an offshoot of like what they typically teach. They're always able to have a little more fun with that. The professors really love these classes. The students do as well. They really serve as a transitionary class, both from high school into college, but specifically into college here at Skidmore, because anywhere you are is going to be a different experience. So being able to kind of hit the ground running and build that foundation right off the bat really helps students kind of find their place here on campus. But do you want to talk about your Scrivener seminar experiences?
Sure. For my Scrivener seminar, it was called Theater and Climate Change with the chair of the theater department. So that was all about art and sustainability and the ecosystem. So that was a lot of fun. We talked about how we can make art more sustainable as well as how we can use art to promote sustainability. So one of the things we were talking about was like how to make costumes. And one of the suggestions that came up was making costumes out of like animal bones and stuff like that. It was really, really cool. And we spent time in Northwoods too, which is 150 acres of woods north of campus.
My seminar actually was somewhat similar. So it was called Plastic Fantastic. So it was an environmental studies type course, all about plastic. We learned about the history, chemistry, of course, environmental problems. But one of the big things in the class was an art project, because all of the Scribner seminars are designed to be interdisciplinary. So we had to make plastic art that had a certain message, and we learned about curation at the Tang Teaching Museum, which is our on-campus museum, fully functioning, really cool space. So that was really great. Yeah, and the seminar sort of provides you with like a family right when you get to school, which is really great. My professor had us all over at her house in the first month, and we had s'mores, and she made us dinner, and we got to meet her family. So right from the start, we all have like the shared interest of taking that class, but you just get to meet those like 15 or so people and immediately have like a group that you can kind of fall back on when you're here. So it's really a great experience.
Yeah, and it's really great to have that kind of right at the start. And so it's a really, unique program having the peer mentor that's chosen by the professor to kind of lead that extra credit hour that covers the non-academic things, and also, all of the orientation touch points. It's really just a great starting point for all students to have. And a lot of students wish that there were more than just the first year experience. I've heard many students wanting to take some of those Scrivener seminars later in life, but it's only available to first year students, which also I think helps make it a really strong program. But beyond that first year experience, I would love to hear both of you talk about what some of your favorite classes have been in your time.
So one of my favorite classes was actually my writing seminar. So everybody's required to take a semester of a writing class, but they can look really different. So my course was a disability studies class, and it was totally unlike anything I had ever learned about before. But we had really fascinating readings, and there were only seven of us. So we really got the chance to get to know each other and get to know my professor. And it was really rigorous in a way that like set me up really for success throughout all of my other classes here, because I feel like it really made me a better writer, encouraged me to think sort of differently. So that was really cool. I also liked my painting class a lot. I'm not an art major, but I took painting, loved it. Great professor. So yeah.
Aiden kind of stole my thunder. I really liked my English 105, so that introductory writing class as well. But other than that, we have a senior project called our senior coda, which is a semester or two of work. And for me, there's kind of two tracks within the English major. There's literary studies and creative writing. I was creative writing track. So I took a couple of workshops working up to that coda. And for my coda, I wrote 50 pages of short stories. And it was a workshop class. So we were all just kind of getting feedback from our professor and from our peers. And it was a really great experience. And I feel like it really made me a much better writer. And the same can be said for the reading and writing YA fiction class that I took, which was amazing.
That's great. It's great. And there's really a variety of classes. I don't know that I've ever met two students that really picked the same favorite class or have had the same collection of classes. So that's always great. Moving on from classes, because it's not all about academics, community is really important here at Skidmore. It's really kind of the foundation of everything. We have over 130 different student organizations. And the only thing we really don't have are fraternities and sororities. If you have an interest in any other area, there's a good chance we have a club for it. But if not, students are really encouraged to create their own clubs kind of from the ground up. Sometimes students are finding that they have, built up a club that used to exist on campus. Other times, you're coming up with a brand new idea that maybe somebody kind of takes over after your time. You see how it lasts after your time here. It's really, good opportunities to leave a mark on campus. But the clubs themselves are all really open door. They really want everyone to be a part of every event and to come to everything that they're offering. They're always looking for students to just come by, whether you're a dedicated member or you're somebody who wants to kind of be a part of the club or you're just looking for free food for the evening. All are good reasons to come by a club event. They would love to have all of their events attended by all of the students if it were up to them. So it's really great to have that as well. And so I want you both to kind of think about all of the many things that you've been involved in, and just talk about some of your parts in that and what that's been like for you.
So regarding clubs, I was an executive board member of Skidmore Polo Club and Skidmore Anime Club. Skidmore Polo Club, we had games pretty much every weekend, so that was a lot of fun. It's one of very few clubs, if not the only one on campus, where if you do want to ride, there is a fee associated, but it's like the cheapest riding you'll ever do in your life. And with Skidmore Anime Club, we would go into Gannett Auditorium, which is the largest auditorium on campus. We'd book it out, and we would watch anime for a couple hours every Friday evening, and that was really, really fun.
So the only club that I'm regularly involved in is our radio. Um, that is WISPN or WSPN. It's the biggest club technically by involvement here, and so I have an hour-long radio show every week, which is really cool. And through the radio, there are different events right throughout the year. So they organize drag shows. There are also bigger concerts that WISPN will organize. But beyond that, I just love to sort of bop into whatever events like have good food or look appealing. So I usually always will go to the literary arts magazine is called Lunchbox, and they'll do a lunch party each semester in the Tang, and great food there. Also, I like poetry, so I'll stop by usually. And then so many other things. There are like over 3,000 club events every year. So the student events committee did a sushi making lesson in one of the places here. So everybody left with like a sushi boat. Um, and I was really jealous. I didn't go to that, but I saw some of my friends did, and it looked really cool. So following the food is sort of always a good idea.
Right, great, great. Yeah, and I mean, there's tons of events happening on campus. In any given year, I believe we put on more events than we have students. So there quite literally is always something happening on campus. And you also don't feel the need to attend every single event because you quite literally could not spread yourself that thin. But you also know that there's always going to be another opportunity to get involved with a club for one reason or another. Another big aspect to community on campus is living on campus. About 90 to 95% of our students live on campus. Housing is guaranteed for all 4 years, which definitely plays a big part in that. But it's also nice to have everything close by. Campus is probably a 20-minute walk from end to end. So, you have everything really close by. So if you're running late, you don't have to worry about traffic, but can also get to your classes and your friends' rooms and apartments and things. So it's nice to have all of that really close, especially in the winter months when the weather isn't as cooperative. But we also have a lot of covered walkways so you can get from point A to point B without having to face the elements on campus. So that's nice. So first year, the typical structure for, a student's living on campus experience. First year students, you don't choose your roommates. That's kind of the big part of that. You get a list of a whole bunch of different questions about your living experience. And all of those questions get compiled together into an algorithm that pairs students up based on compatibility. And most students will live in a triple in that first year, which when I heard sounded scary, but upon actually seeing the triple, it was really nice. They all have really nice window seats, a lot of great natural lighting, which is awesome for a dorm. So it's a really spacious spot for a lot of students. And compared to some other dorms I've seen kind of over my time, I'm happy to happy to talk about these in great light. And so, like I said, students don't choose your roommates. You get those random roommate assignments. We did have a few years ago, students kind of push back against that, really want to choose their own roommates. And we actually did allow that. And in that year, we found there were more roommate transfer requests than ever before. And so we went back to the algorithm, which has been a smooth sailing since. But Housing and Residential Life does a great job of answering any questions students have about their living experience, handling any roommate disputes or issues like that, and also any housing accommodations. They really do a great job of making sure that everything, comes together so that all students have a place that they can call home and they feel safe while they're here on campus. And then, so after your first year, you've got sophomore year where most students will live in a single or a double, and that's usually just up to personal preference. I've never heard anyone kind of want a double, get a single, etc., either direction. So also kind of speaking to that algorithm working, we actually had to switch up our plans a few years ago. We had students kind of wanting to stay in their triples, which wasn't previously an option, but we didn't expect students would want to stay in those triples. And a lot of students really just like the energy they have with their roommates. And now that's an option for sophomores to choose to stay in those triples if they would like to. And so that's great. And then junior and senior year, you have access in the on-campus apartments. So those are on that far edge of campus. We have 3, 4, and 5-person apartments. They're fully furnished. They've got a full bed. You've got a shared living space, a fully equipped kitchen. So it's a lot more of that independent feel while still having that connection to campus. And you still can use facilities and things like that. So it's really nice to kind of have that independence, but still not have to deal with a plumber or a landlord. If anything were to go wrong, you kind of still rely on Skidmore resources and you're still really close by to everything going on campus. But do you both want to talk about a little bit about your experience with living on campus?
Sure. I lived on campus all 4 years. I am actually currently staying in the apartment I was living in during the semester as well. It's the nicest apartment I'm going to live in for the next 10 years. There's a dishwasher, there's garbage disposal. It's really nice. One of the people I live with, I actually met via a group project in my Scribner seminar. And my sophomore year housemate, who I lived with in the apartments as well, I'm going to be moving in with after I graduate. So I'm really close friends with everybody I've lived in, and I've had a great time in Skidmore College resident spaces.
Same thing here. I followed the sort of typical trajectory. I lived in a triple freshman year. Sophomore year, I lived in a single. And then this past year, I lived in an apartment. We'll live in an apartment again. This is my apartment room. So you too could have a room that looks like this. The apartments are great. It's really like a neighborhood. So in my backyard here, there's a beach volleyball court. There are grills. There's a fire pit that I brought, Adirondack chairs. So during the summer, totally great. Also during the warmer months, but the apartments are really very nice. I've loved it. You can cook for yourself. The dining hall is great though, but I like cooking, so that's fun.
Yeah, it's great to have the option to cook or not cook. But that does bring me to my next point. Our dining services does a phenomenal job. They provide food really as a service to our students. They cater to a ton of different dietary restrictions, allergy requirements. Every item in the dining hall has like a little index card that tells you if it's got soy or dairy or gluten or wheat or anything like that. Things that are vegetarian versus vegan. So they over communicate in the best way. They also rotate the menu so you're not eating everything the same every day, but also they make sure there's always staples. You know, there's always going to be pizza, there's always going to be a salad bar, you're always going to be able to grab um, a sandwich from the sandwich station or make your own eggs on the flat top. So there's a lot of those options for students. And they really take student feedback very kind of intentionally. So this -9 collective where food is made without the top 9 allergens is something that was born out of student feedback and wanting more options for students with different dietary needs. So it's really great to see things like that come to fruition. We have a lot of students that work in the dining halls. Is that shared understanding and that open door kind of communication, which is great. And they also do a great job of educating students. So there's a lot of posters and flyers up talking about composting, the importance of food waste, sustainability. They do a good job of getting local ingredients and being mindful of these things, repurposing things as much as possible. And that student feedback also comes into making sure they're making things that students want to eat. They don't want to be just building these elaborate meals that no one wants and then having to throw them away. So they do a good job of that as well. And it's really just a nice thing to have really at the center of campus. Everything kind of branches off from there. So it's really accessible, whether you're running from your classes or from your room. Really, all of the above give good access to our dining hall. And it being all you can eat also helps a lot. You'll see students, staff, faculty, community members alike all in the dining hall. So it really is good food beyond just what it says on the pamphlet. It's good food in practice as well. And then another area of campus I haven't touched on is our athletics. So we are a Division III athletic school. We have 19 varsity sports. We compete in the Liberty League, and we have a variety of club and intramural sports as well. So there's really a level for everyone. And you both kind of have experience with both sides of that coin. Do you want to talk a little bit about the athletic scene here at Skidmore?
Yeah, so I am on the swim team. I love it. I've been really grateful to be able to continue doing the sport that has been such a huge part of my life for the last 15 years. I have 1 year left. I'm going to be a senior, but it's a really great way to like meet friends, of course. And I find it's really good for my mental health and success in school to have an activity every day where I can take my mind off of work. So I always tell people that I find balancing my time easier when I'm in season, which might be a bit of a surprise, but sometimes when you have less time, it actually is a little bit easier, especially if you're doing something that's fulfilling. But club and intramural sports, of course, are also a great option, like Leo can talk about. But one of my best friends is on the ultimate frisbee team. That's a really popular club sport. Um, they're really cool and they love it a lot.
Yeah. So I've been doing polo all 4 years. To be clear, this is polo on horses. Um, I was not a good rider when I got to Skidmore. Um, but they kind of taught me. I started in the JV program, which is for people with riding experience but no polo experience, and I moved up to the varsity team, which is for people with polo experience over the course of my 4 years. I ended up on the men's varsity team. We had a couple of games this past year, which was really cool. We're always excited to have people come to our games every weekend. Um, we also have a beginners program for people who don't have any experience, and we teach you how to ride. It's like 4 or 5 lessons over the course of the fall semester. It's only $100, so it's super affordable. I also took riding lessons at the Van Lennep. Those are 4 credit. I was not a member of the riding team, which we do have as well. But there's a lot of sports classes you can do for credit, and riding is a very popular one. They also have an introduction to riding class. So yeah, I had a really great time with my club sports.
Right. And I do see a question that just came through about majoring and minoring and double majoring. So the student wants to be able to focus on both science and art. And I know I could give a long spiel about that, but I think the student experience is much more expansive. So you guys want to talk about kind of what it's like to major and minor or double major and how common that is or how you balance those types of things?
Yeah, so I chose a major and minor that overlap a lot. I believe at my time at Skidmore, I only took 2 classes that were not cross-listed between English and gender studies. So for a lot of my gender studies requirements, I was actually taking classes that were listed in the English department and counted towards my major as well, which was made it a lot easier because I'm not always the most theory heavy person, which is surprising considering I chose gender studies as my minor. But that was really useful for me.
I just have one major, but I play a sport, so that takes up a lot of time. But then also, I've worked my way most of the way through a minor in Spanish and also studio art, and just decided I didn't want to complete them fully, but not for lack of ease of doing those things. Um, it's very common to double major here. And if you wanted to do science and art, that's totally something that you could do and something that a lot of people do. Really, people choose Skidmore because they have varied interests and often want to explore both of those paths. So I would totally recommend it. I mean, I'm an environmental science major, so I take a lot of labs and I've taken multiple labs in a semester while also taking a studio art class. It's totally doable. And since you come in undecided, all of the majors can be completed like within not, you don't need the full 4 years to take all of the requirements for your classes. Like it's okay if you explore for a while and then decide on your major towards the end of your sophomore year. So that kind of thing can definitely tell you that you can fit in a minor and a major, double major, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and a lot of students do kind of lean on that major, minor, or double major. And it's really common. I mean, we talk about creative thought matters a lot throughout Skidmore, and I think that is really kind of built into that course structure. And we really do encourage students to do both, do all three, whatever your passions are, and not to leave anything kind of on the table. And that really does show itself through that build up in the class structures and the flexibility of what it is you can do. Um, Another area that I know a lot of students are interested in is study abroad. Um, so study abroad is really popular at Skidmore. I believe we just got back to our pre-COVID numbers. So we are at about 60% of students that study abroad at some point in Skidmore. And that's really great. It's really high number. I love to kind of report on that. We have, I think it's something over 120 different pre-approved programs, but you're also able to submit your other kind of programs that you find and things that you're interested in that maybe we don't have a connection with. and off-campus and study exchange will kind of work their magic to kind of get it approved and make sure that we can pair you up with that. So they have a lot of different options for students. You can study abroad for a semester or for a full year. But there also, are options for students who maybe don't want to commit to that. We have travel seminars, which are students taking classes here on Saratoga campus. And at the end of the semester, they'll travel for 2 weeks to the country that they just learned about, which is a really cool opportunity for students. Something I definitely want to highlight is your financial aid does travel with you when you study abroad. So it really is like you are a Skidmore student elsewhere, and you still have access to your advisor and all of the Skidmore resources you may need. So they do a great job of making sure students are prepared for that and that everything is still accessible. But do we want to talk a little bit about study abroad?
Yeah, so I actually studied abroad twice. Between my junior and senior year, I was abroad in Stockholm, Sweden for 10 weeks. I was doing classes that fulfilled the elective requirements for my gender studies minor for the most part. So you can do that as well if you need to fill requirements for your major or minor. And for my second one, I got back at the end of May from a travel seminar. I was in Ireland with President Mark C. Connor. And that was really a lot of fun. We were exploring the west of Ireland and its history and culture.
And I also studied abroad. Last fall, I went to Ecuador. It was an incredible program. So I spent half the semester living in Quito. And while I was there, we explored all around in the city and in the cloud forest. I went to the Amazon rainforest for a week, which was incredible. And then at the end of the semester, I spent 10 weeks living in the Galapagos, which was truly, truly the best part, coolest place I've been. I stayed with a host family, so I got to practice my Spanish, but the program was great because we had field trips all the time and I did lots of research. So I got hands-on science experience and I just lived near the beach and I went snorkeling. So it was very cool. I will also highlight the abroad counselors because I applied for a program that I got waitlisted for at first and was pretty disappointed initially. And then the advisors pivoted me towards the program that I chose because one of them had visited it a few years ago and she said that it would be great for me, that looked really cool, students really love it. And I did. And I switched to that one, applied to it, got in. Um, and it was life changing. So I would definitely recommend getting involved in abroad at some level, however that fits for you.
All right, great, great. And we're getting kind of towards the end half of this, but we're going to keep answering questions as they come in. But I do want to kind of touch on one of my favorite questions to ask students. But that is, what made you choose Skidmore, and what kind of makes Skidmore stand out for you as far as why you're here, why you stayed here? What are you most proud of? What really makes Skidmore Skidmore for you?
So I can be a little bit of an eclectic person sometimes. I actually came in intending to be a biology major. I'm not a biology major. And then I wanted to be a gender studies major. I'm a gender studies minor. So I wanted a college that had a lot of different options and robust departments in a lot of areas. So I didn't necessarily have to settle on something super fast, and I had a lot of options for classes I could take. And Skidmore was just really excellent for that. It's also we can't really see it because we're online, but it's a gorgeous campus. And it's just so wonderful. I didn't actually intend to apply to Skidmore at all, and then I toured and I was like, this is where I want to be, and I ended up applying early decision.
So for me, the two things that make Skidmore like truly, it's been an incredible experience here. One, the people, of course. I love my friends. Um, Additionally, the faculty I have found so supportive and personable within my department, but then also in all of the different types of classes I've had. Um, all of my professors that I've had truly have cared about me as a student and as a person, which has been really great. And then the other thing is the ease of access to certain resources. So I think like um, research is very um, accessible. You can get involved in research as early as the semester of your freshman year. Students, a lot of them that are on campus right now, are doing paid summer research. So they're getting a stipend of about $6,000. Their housing and meal plans are covered. And they're doing research projects in all departments, not just STEM. It's in the humanities and arts too. So opportunities like that are excellent. And part of why I love the people here is that they're not competitive with each other for these opportunities. Um, People are all involved in something and sort of like to see each other succeed. So I've never felt as though I have to like fight or compete with one of my friends because there's only this one spot available in someone's lab. Like, that's not the vibe at all. Everybody is doing something and sort of has something going on, and you can really get involved in what you want to, which is really very nice.
Awesome. I love to hear that. Another really kind of important question is, thinking back to when you were kind of in the shoes of our attendees tonight, what is something you kind of wish you had considered, or maybe didn't think enough about in your college search process? Whether that's Skidmore specifically related or just in general, what is something that you would kind of give us, point of advice for students that are kind of in the process of researching and visiting colleges, deciding where to apply, things to consider, all of that.
I'll sort of continue my answer from the first one because I did not look at all into research or like summer experiences. Yeah, that just wasn't on my mind when I was 17 and I picked Skidmore. And now in my place, I'm so grateful that I wound up somewhere that does have a lot of opportunities and support, especially financially. Like there are different funding opportunities for summer experiences. So our summer experience fund is a $4,500 stipend that lots of students get to do lower unpaid internships. I got it last summer and I worked at an environmental nonprofit, was doing water quality monitoring. That was something that one of my professors just told me about, and I saw all the emails and I applied for and got. And that allowed me to do a really valuable summer internship. So that's sort of similar to research. Like those kinds of things I definitely did not know about. So look into them for here at Skidmore and then also your other schools because types of experiences like that outside of the classroom can be really valuable.
I'm gonna kind of steal something Aiden said earlier, but really the vibes of the campus and the professors and the students and seeing how much other students are enjoying their time here. I didn't consider that at all, but that was huge when I came to Skidmore and is really why I wound up staying as well. The professors here are also all super kind and involved. Every professor is going to have office hours on their syllabus or by appointment, so you can schedule appointments to meet with them, talk about if something you're struggling with, or honestly just to hang out. At Skidmore, I've only had one professor that I didn't like, and he no longer works here. So,
We'll count that as a happy coincidence and a good outcome in that regard. Yeah, I mean, if there's any other questions, feel free to drop them in. And we'll stick around. I've got one final question that I'll hold for a few seconds to see if we have any other any other questions that pop through. But we're also very available. If you have something that comes to your mind later tonight or tomorrow, feel free to shoot an email to admissions@skidmore.edu. And we'll be happy to answer as best as we can. Um, great. So a student is asking about the Career Development Center and kind of internships during the first couple years, but honestly, all 4 years and beyond. So what's been your experience with the Career Development Center and finding internships and things to do kind of applying your degree?
So there's a platform that the Career Development Center uses, and all of us do, called Handshake, which basically can connect you with jobs and internships. You put in like your major and your interests, and you can filter through. And Skidmore has a collection of like flagged jobs and internships that the Career Development Center has found, particularly that look good for Skidmore students. But beyond the Career Development Center, and this is not to discount them at all, but I found my professors and my department to be my best resource for internships. My professors send an email out every few months with different internship opportunities. I've heard things just from word of mouth about my professors saying, "Hey, you should contact this alum. They have this um, opportunity for like students, blah, 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 all of those things." So I feel like your professors oftentimes know you better and maybe know the field that you're going into really specifically, so they can like guide you in a maybe more personalized way.
Yeah, I personally didn't really utilize the Career Development Center. I can past graduation. I probably should have, I'll admit. But I considered it an MFA for a little while, and I was able to talk to my advisor and one of my professors more directly about that because I'd taken classes with them and they were more familiar with my writing and my interests and where I wanted to go in the future.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. So our Career Development Center is, as both students mentioned, a great resource. About 75% of students will take an internship at some point in their time at Skidmore. So it's a really great resource. They have resources for all levels of students. It's never too early or too late to get involved with them. And as Leo mentioned, you're allowed to use the Career Development Center for the rest of your life. So at any point as an alumni, you can reach out and make that connection. They also do a good job of reaching out to alumni and connecting alumni with students that are looking for internships or trying to make other connections. So it's really great to have such a central, important resource. And they also are the ones that are bringing companies to campus and posting those job postings for students. So there's a lot of resource kind of allotment throughout the Career Development Center, and they're really great about that. All right, so I think we'll wrap it up with the last question. I think my last question for you both is, what is kind of the one thing that surprised you most about your time at Skidmore? Something that maybe you hadn't considered or, just kind of stood out as a big surprise in your time here, that maybe somebody might not be thinking about at this moment.
For me, it was, or it has been, the diversity of students. And both like I mean it more, of course, like Skidmore's diverse with international students and demographics, but the diversity of like interests and kinds of people here has totally surprised me in such a pleasant way. I guess I had thought going to like a small liberal arts school that students were going to be a little bit more similar. And that's not to say that we don't have a lot of shared things in common, but honestly, like there are lots of kinds of people here. We're sort of like evenly spaced, like with majors, like a third in the arts, a third in the humanities, a third in the sciences. And that really is like a testament to the fact that like people's interests are super varied. And I like that. I think it's really valuable. I've met lots of different sorts of people, and they've all been really interesting. So, yeah, it's been good for sure.
This is a really hard question, but honestly, if I had to answer, it's how close I would become with the people I met here. Admittedly, I had a little bit of a difficult time making friends in high school, but that was absolutely not the case at Skidmore. Everybody was just super friendly, and I'm living with someone outside of college that I met here. And people I kind of coincidentally lived with in my suite, and then somebody I met through class, two people I met through classes. So, and I've just made a lot of close friends from all different departments within my clubs as well.
Awesome. It's really great to hear. And really appreciate you both coming on to give a little bit of that student perspective. But I also wanted to echo a lot of what Aiden talked about, with the diversity of Skidmore. Something that I heard when I was joining Skidmore was, we do have 2,700 students, and there really are 2,700 different kinds of students here. And I think that's really true. I've yet to meet two students who are doing the same thing here on campus, but I also have not met anyone on campus not doing anything and just kind of coasting by. It's really great to have a student body that really takes pride in what it is they're passionate about and is passionate about something or a variety of things. There's often students are always asking, what does a Skidmore student look like? And there really is no answer beyond just a student that's passionate about learning and being creative. So I really think, you know, that is central, and I can't drive that point home enough. But I wanted to thank you all for being here tonight and for tuning on with us. And again, feel free if you have any other questions to send an email, admissions@skidmore.edu. We answer as much as we can, and we find out the answers to the things that we can't. So we're really looking forward to hearing from you all, and hope you all have a great rest of your night and rest of your week.